What if I told you that the wealthiest, most powerful people in the world aren't just smarter than you? They're operating on a completely different mental operating system. Not because they went to better schools, not because they had lucky breaks, but because they discovered something the rest of us never learned. A set of principles so powerful, so transformative, that they've been quietly passed down among the elite for over 2,000 years. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful men, wrote in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not motivational fluff. That's a weapon, a blueprint for building unshakable mental dominance." See, billionaires don't just think differently. They've mastered the art of controlling their mind, their emotions, their reactions. They've learned to turn obstacles into opportunities, chaos into clarity, and pressure into power. And the crazy part, these principles aren't new. They're ancient. They come from Stoicism, a philosophy that shaped emperors, warriors, and the most successful people throughout history. But here's what nobody tells you. The wealthy don't advertise these principles. They don't post them on social media. They don't share them in interviews. Why? Because mental dominance is a competitive advantage, and they'd rather you stay distracted, emotional, and reactive while they stay calm, focused, and in control. In the next few minutes, I'm going to break down 8 Stoic principles that billionaires use daily to build empires, make decisions under pressure, and stay unshaken when everyone else is panicking. This isn't theory. This is how the most powerful minds on the planet actually operate. And by the end of this video, you'll have the same mental framework they do. But here's the deal. If you want this transformation, if you're serious about upgrading your mindset to the level of people who actually run the world, I need you to do something right now. Hit that like button. Not for the algorithm, for yourself. Because that simple action tells your brain, I'm committed to this. I'm not just passively watching. I'm here to change. And if you're ready to keep learning principles like these, principles that actually create results in the real world, hit subscribe. We're building a community of people who refuse to think like everyone else. Now let's dive in. Principle 1. Control your attention. Control your reality. Here's the first principle billionaires live by, and it's probably the most important one. Your attention is your most valuable asset. More valuable than money. More valuable than time. Because wherever your attention goes, your energy flows. And wherever your energy flows, your life grows. The average person gives their attention away for free. They scroll mindlessly. They worry about things they can't control. They obsess over other people's opinions. They let the news, social media, and drama hijack their mind. Billionaires. They guard their attention like Fort Knox. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, not because the future doesn't matter, but because the present is where your power lives." Every distraction you entertain is power you're giving away. Think about it. When Elon Musk is building SpaceX, do you think he's scrolling through Twitter arguments? When Jeff Bezos was scaling Amazon, do you think he was watching Netflix for hours? No, they direct their attention with surgical precision toward what moves the needle. Here's what most people don't understand. Your brain can only hold one thought at a time. So every minute you spend worrying about what someone said about you, or replaying a mistake from last week, or doom scrolling through content that doesn't serve you, that's a minute you're not building your future. The Stoics called this living in accordance with nature. And one of nature's laws is this: energy flows where attention goes. So here's the billionaire practice. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you open social media, before you let the world dump its chaos into your mind, you decide what gets your attention today. Not your inbox, not the news, not other people's emergencies. You. You choose 3 things that actually move your life forward, and everything else? It doesn't exist. Epictetus said it perfectly. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Billionaires don't react to every stimulus. They respond only to what matters, and when you start protecting your attention like it's your most valuable resource, because it is, you'll notice something powerful. Your decisions get sharper. Your work gets deeper. Your progress accelerates because you're no longer bleeding energy into distractions. You're channeling it into creation. So ask yourself right now, where's my attention going today? Is it building me up or is it draining me? Because the person who controls their attention controls their reality. Principle 2. Master your emotions or they'll master you. Here is a brutal truth billionaires understand that most people never learn. Your emotions are not facts. They're signals, and if you let them drive your decisions, you'll crash. Epictetus, who went from slave to philosopher, said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. They can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by them." Read that again. Every time you let someone's comment ruin your day, you just made them your master. Every time you let fear stop you from taking action, fear became your master. Every time you let your mood dictate your effort, your emotions became your master. Billionaires don't operate this way. They feel emotions. They're human, but they don't let emotions control them. When the market crashes, they don't panic. They assess. When someone criticizes them, they don't spiral. They evaluate. When a deal falls through, they don't quit. They pivot. This is emotional sovereignty, and it's one of the most powerful competitive advantages you can develop. Let me give you a real example. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest men alive, operates with what he calls a 20-slot rule. He says, imagine you only get 20 investment decisions in your entire life. How much more careful would you be? That's emotional discipline. That's refusing to let FOMO, fear, or excitement drive your choices. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's the billionaire mindset. I don't control what happens, but I control how I interpret it and respond to it. So here's the practice. Next time you feel a strong emotion, anger, fear, excitement, anxiety, pause. Don't act. Don't speak. Don't decide. Just breathe and ask yourself, is this emotion giving me useful information or is it just noise? If it's useful, fear before a risk, excitement about an opportunity, extract the signal. If it's noise, random anxiety, reactive anger, let it pass. This simple pause transforms you from someone who's controlled by life into someone who controls how they experience life, and that's the difference between someone who builds empires and someone who's tossed around by every emotional wave. Billionaires know the person who masters their emotions becomes untouchable. Principle 3. Expect obstacles. Then use them. Most people see obstacles as reasons to quit. Billionaires see obstacles as opportunities to dominate. This is the principle that separates the wealthy from everyone else. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Translation: the obstacle is not in your way. The obstacle is the way. Every challenge you face is either breaking you or building you, and the difference comes down to how you interpret it. Look at any billionaire's story and you'll find one common thread: massive obstacles that would have destroyed most people. Elon Musk was on the verge of bankruptcy multiple times. Oprah faced poverty, abuse, and rejection before her breakthrough. Steve Jobs got fired from his own company before coming back to build Apple into a trillion-dollar empire. They didn't succeed in spite of obstacles. They succeeded because of them, because obstacles force you to innovate. They force you to adapt. They reveal what you're made of. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher and one of the richest men in Rome, practiced something radical. He would intentionally create obstacles for himself. He'd sleep on a hard floor. He'd wear cheap clothes. He'd fast voluntarily. Why? To prepare his mind for hardship, so that when real obstacles came, he was already trained. Here's what billionaires understand. Comfort creates weakness. Resistance creates strength. When you're constantly comfortable, you become fragile. The first real problem breaks you. But when you train yourself to face obstacles, to solve problems, to push through resistance, you become dangerous. You become someone who doesn't fold under pressure. You become someone who thrives in chaos, while everyone else is panicking. So here's the billionaire mindset shift. Stop asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is this teaching me? Every failed deal, a lesson in negotiation. Every rejection, data on what to improve. Every setback, a test of resilience. The obstacle is not the enemy. The obstacle is the gym where your strength gets built. Billionaires don't avoid problems. They collect them, because they know that the bigger the problems they can solve, the bigger the rewards they'll receive. So next time something goes wrong, don't complain. Don't collapse. Don't quit. Say this: good, this is making me stronger. And watch how that single shift transforms your entire trajectory. Principle 4. Play the long game while everyone chases quick wins. Here's a principle that's made billionaires billions while everyone else stays broke. They think in decades, not days. Most people want instant results. They want the quick flip, the viral moment, the overnight success. Billionaires? They're planting trees they won't sit under for 20 years. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Most people waste their time chasing short-term dopamine hits, likes, validation, quick money. Billionaires invest their time in long-term compounding, skills, relationships, systems, assets. Jeff Bezos famously said he's willing to be misunderstood for long periods of time because he's playing a game most people can't even see. When Amazon was losing money for years, Wall Street called him crazy. But he wasn't building a business for next quarter's earnings. He was building infrastructure for the next century. That's the Stoic principle of detachment from outcomes. Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. You can't control when success comes, but you can control your daily effort, your discipline, your focus. Billionaires fall in love with the process, not the result. They don't go to the gym for abs. They go to build discipline. They don't network for deals. They build relationships. They don't chase money. They solve problems at scale. And because they're focused on the process, the results come naturally, massive results. Here's what this looks like practically. While everyone's posting their wins on social media for validation, billionaires are working in silence for years. While everyone's trying to get rich quick, billionaires are building businesses that'll print money for decades. While everyone's worried about what people think today, billionaires are focused on who they'll become in 10 years. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. Meaning, stop obsessing over outcomes. Master your process today. Trust that the future will take care of itself. So here's your practice. Ask yourself, what can I do today that my future self will thank me for in 10 years? Then do that, every single day. That's how billionaires are built. Not through luck, through long-term thinking that compounds into unstoppable momentum. Principle 5. Voluntary discomfort builds. Invincible. Will here's a principle that sounds crazy but creates billionaires. Seek discomfort on purpose. Most people avoid discomfort at all costs. They want the easy path, the comfortable life, The path of least resistance. Billionaires. They do hard things intentionally because they know comfort creates weakness. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare." Saying to yourself, "Is this the condition that I feared?" This is called voluntary hardship, and it's how you build a mind that cannot be broken. Think about it. If you've never been uncomfortable, never faced real hardship, never pushed beyond your limits, what happens when life forces you to? You break. You panic. You fold. But if you've trained yourself, if you've voluntarily chosen discomfort, then when real hardship comes, you're already prepared. This is why Navy SEALs train in Hell Week, why ultra-marathoners run 100 miles, why billionaires wake up at 4 a.m. even though they don't have to. They're not punishing themselves. They're preparing themselves. Marcus Aurelius ruled during wars, plagues, and constant crises. Yet he remained calm. Why? Because he'd mentally prepared for hardship every single day. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." He didn't hope for an easy day. He expected difficulty. And because he expected it, he wasn't shocked when it came. Here's how billionaires practice voluntary discomfort. They take cold showers to train mental resilience. They fast to prove they control their urges, not the other way around. They say no to luxuries they can afford just to sharpen discipline. They do hard workouts when they're tired to prove they're stronger than their excuses. These aren't just physical exercises. They're mental training. Every time you choose the hard path when you could choose the easy one, you're building willpower. You're proving to yourself that you're in control, and that compounds. The person who can do a cold shower every morning can also make the hard business decision. The person who can fast for 24 hours can also delay gratification for long-term success. The person who can wake up early every day can also stay disciplined when no one's watching. Voluntary discomfort is the training ground for mental dominance. So here's your challenge. Choose one form of voluntary discomfort this week. Make it something you don't want to do. And do it anyway, not because you have to, because you're training yourself to be someone who can handle anything life throws at you. That's how billionaires think. That's how unstoppable people are built. Principle 6. Memento mori. Remember death. Live with urgency. Here's the darkest principle billionaires use, and the most powerful. Remember, you're going to die. The Stoics called it memento mori. Remember death, not to be morbid, but to wake up. Because when you truly realize your time is limited, you stop wasting it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Steve Jobs famously said, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life." Why? Because death puts everything in perspective. That argument you're having, meaningless. That fear holding you back, irrelevant. That excuse you keep making, pathetic. When you realize you don't have forever, you stop living like you do. You stop scrolling for hours. You stop tolerating toxic relationships. You stop putting off your dreams. You stop waiting for the right time, because there is no right time. There's only now. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Most people live like they have infinite time. They say someday and eventually and when I'm ready. Billionaires know better. They know that someday is a lie. Eventually never comes. Ready is a myth, so they move with urgency, not panic, urgency. There's a difference. Panic is chaotic. Urgency is focused. Billionaires don't waste time on things that don't matter because they know every minute spent on nonsense is a minute they'll never get back. Here's how this principle transforms your life. When you remember death, you prioritize ruthlessly. You say no to distractions. You say yes to what actually matters. You stop living for other people's approval and start living for your own fulfillment. You speak your truth because you realize you don't have time to be fake. You take risks because you realize the biggest risk is dying with regrets. You love deeply because you realize everyone you care about won't be here forever. This isn't depressing. This is liberating. Because when you accept that death is inevitable, you become fearless. What's the worst that can happen? You fail, you get rejected, you look stupid. None of that matters when you're dead. So here's your practice. Every morning, remind yourself, I could die today. Not to scare yourself, but to focus yourself. Then ask, if today was my last day, would I be proud of how I'm spending it? If the answer is no, change what you're doing. Billionaires don't have time to waste, and neither do you. Principle 7. Negative visualization. Prepare for the worst, appreciate the present. Here's a principle that sounds pessimistic, but creates unshakable confidence. Imagine losing everything. The Stoics called it negative visualization. Regularly imagine the worst-case scenario so that you're mentally prepared if it happens and deeply grateful when it doesn't. Seneca practiced this daily. He would imagine losing his wealth, his status, his health, his loved ones, not because he wanted it to happen, but because he knew attachment creates suffering. When you're attached to outcomes, you become fragile. When you're prepared for any outcome, you become invincible. Billionaires use this principle constantly. Before a big deal, they imagine it falling through. What would they do? How would they pivot? Before launching a product, they imagine it failing. What would they learn? What's the backup plan? This isn't negative thinking. This is strategic thinking. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, 'Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness.'" He wasn't being pessimistic. He was being prepared. And because he was prepared, nothing caught him off guard. Nothing broke him. Here's why this works. When you visualize the worst-case scenario, two things happen. First, you realize it's usually not that bad. Most of our fears are exaggerated. When you actually think through what would happen if you failed, you realize you'd survive. You'd adapt. You'd rebuild. Second, you develop gratitude for what you have right now. When you imagine losing your health, you appreciate your body. When you imagine losing your business, you appreciate the opportunity to build. When you imagine losing people you love, you appreciate every moment with them. Billionaires don't take anything for granted because they regularly remind themselves that everything can be taken away. And paradoxically, this makes them more confident, because they know that even if they lose everything external, they still have themselves, their mind, their skills, their resilience. Epictetus, who was literally a slave before becoming a philosopher, understood this deeply. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. When you need nothing, you fear nothing. When you fear nothing, you're unstoppable. So here's your practice. Once a week, imagine losing something you value. Your income, your status, your comfort, your relationships. Then ask, how would I handle it? What would I do next? This mental rehearsal builds resilience, and when you're resilient, nothing can break you. Principle 8. Live for virtue, not validation. Here's the final principle, and it might be the most countercultural one. Billionaires don't live for applause. They live for integrity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In a world obsessed with image, likes, and validation, this principle is radical. Most people perform. They curate. They pretend. They do things not because it's right, but because it looks good. Billionaires? They move in silence. They do what's right even when no one's watching. They build character, not image. Seneca said, "I will govern my life and thoughts as if the whole world were to see the one and read the other." That's true power. living so aligned with your values that you'd be comfortable with anyone seeing your life. Not because you're perfect, but because you're genuine. Here's what most people don't understand. External validation is empty. It's fleeting. It's unreliable. You can have 1 million followers and still feel empty inside. You can have all the money in the world and still feel worthless. You can have everyone's approval and still hate yourself. But when you live for virtue, when you do what's right, keep your word, act with integrity, treat people well, you build something that can never be taken from you. Self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of everything else. Billionaires know this. That's why they'll walk away from deals that don't align with their values. That's why they'll protect their reputation more than their profit. That's why they'll do the right thing even when it costs them. Because they understand you can always make more money, but you can't rebuild a character you've compromised. Epictetus taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Meaning, stop performing for the crowd. Stop seeking approval. Stop diluting your truth to fit in. Be who you are. Stand for what you believe. Do what's right, and let the results speak for themselves. Here's the beautiful part. When you stop needing validation, you become magnetic. When you stop performing, you become authentic. When you stop seeking approval, you become the kind of person people naturally respect. So here's your final practice. This week, do one thing that's right, even though no one will see it. Keep a promise even when it's inconvenient. Help someone even when you get no credit. Work hard even when no one's watching. That's how you build a character worth having. That's how you become someone you're proud to be. That's how billionaires operate. Closing, listen. You just learned 8 principles that the wealthiest, most powerful people on the planet use every single day. Not because they're special, but because they chose to think differently. They control their attention instead of letting it scatter. They master their emotions instead of being controlled by them. They use obstacles as opportunities instead of excuses. They think long-term while everyone chases quick wins. They choose discomfort to build strength. They remember death to live with urgency. They prepare for the worst to appreciate the present. And they live for virtue, not validation. These aren't just principles. These are the operating system of people who build empires. And now you have it too. But here's the truth. Knowing this changes nothing. Applying this changes everything. Most people will watch this video, feel inspired for 5 minutes, and then go right back to their old patterns. Don't be most people. Take one principle, just one, and apply it today. Control your attention for the next hour. Master your next emotional reaction. Face one obstacle with a new perspective. Because small actions compound into massive results. And that's how you go from where you are now to where billionaires operate. Type this in the comments to seal it. I'm becoming unstoppable. And if you're serious about continuing this transformation, if you want more principles that actually create real-world results, hit that subscribe button right now. We're building a community of people who refuse to think like everyone else. People who are committed to mastery, not mediocrity. Stay stoic. Stay focused. Stay dangerous. Because your mind is your greatest weapon. And now you know how to use it.